What is up, everybody? Good morning. Today we're gonna do some awesome stuff. I'm gonna pull up Propstream and I'm gonna show you some of the filters that I've been using to find leads for creative finance deals. And there's a lot of different ways to find, properties. And I'm sitting here with my wife Jen too. We're getting some stuff done on a Saturday morning. So if you don't have Propstream, here's a good time to see what it looks like, right? And see some of the cool things you could do. And if you already have it, here are some filters that you can use that will kind of just, give you some opportunities to make some calls. And this works anywhere around the country. Some areas might be better than others, depending on how big the market is, but that's what it does. So with that being the case, I'm going to go over those filters right now. I would say I started doing this, I don't even know, probably about a little over a year and a half ago. We got on Propstream, and it was just cool, some of the filters that you can do. And originally when we got on there, I was looking for houses that had a lot of equity. And that was a great way to find maybe sellers who were absentee owners and they had a lot of equity. That means they lived in another place and they wanted to get rid of a house potentially. And so that's how I found some of my first deals. But this was a really neat way to how to find creative finance deals. And let me start dropping that stuff right now. I'm going to let some of y'all get checked in too, because I know I got a lot of people coming today. I'm going to pull up Propstream and we're going to dive into this. There is the comment section. I'm also going to post a link. If you don't have Propstream, here's a 7-day free trial. That's our affiliate link. So if you use that, you can check it out for 7 days, use some of these filters. And if you like it, I don't know, it costs maybe $100 a month, but it's like Zillow, like with a ton more stuff to it. We could see past sales. You could see mortgage history. I could see a lot of times what their interest rate is or what their payment is, how much they owe on their mortgage. So it does a lot of cool things. And that's why I really like Propstream. So I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. Okay. So what I'm doing right now is I'm on Propstream. And one of the cool things it does is when you sign in, there's the whole country. We're going to check out Orlando today. Okay. Orlando is one of those markets where there's a lot of things going on there. It's a big metro. You've got some tourism there with Disney and Universal. And it's a great spot just to vacation with families. Whole lot of events there. It's pretty cool. So I'm going to check out Orlando. And the one thing I like about this before I start putting in any searches in Propstream, this is what Propstream looks like too. When you log in, they give you your own login name. You make one. And it's once you do, you sign into this screen. The one thing, though, that I didn't know for a while Propstream had was this little tool to the right called Analytics. Now, when you click on this, this is going to start diving into like rental values, price growth, MLS stats. For an example, if you click here, listing price, okay, and there's going to be a thermometer here, and this is going to give you a map of what everything looks like. So when you look at this, you're going to see obviously some areas are probably more expensive than others based on what's going on there. Can you tell the dog to stop? When you have this hot spot here, and you could see by the temperature gauge, but you could also see where maybe some more affordable things are, right? So this part, probably not that expensive. You could see here in Tampa, pretty expensive. Along the coastline, obviously pretty expensive. So that's kind of cool that it does that. MLS info. You also could do established values, right? And estimate values. Once again, $1 million plus is all going to be in red, so you can see where all the expensive stuff is. The 100K range is all where the light blue is up in here. So if maybe you're looking to tap into the Florida market for the first time, there are some affordable places, which is sometimes you don't think that's a possibility, but it is. Here's the one interesting one, though, is price growth. So price growth you could do over the last 1 month, 6 months. This is going to go by current sales. So if we look at what price growth is over the last 6 months in Florida, It's been a little bit beyond the plus, barely plus of the neutral, which is like a green. You'll see a lot of yellow, right? But also here too, you might see some areas where down here, well, jeepers, this is still red hot right here. What's going on here, right? And of course, it's one of those barrier islands. There must be a lot of sales and prices are still jumping up there. So that's kind of neat that you can still do that right from here. So those are some of the analytics you can do. And I mean, you can go look at some price growth for the last 3 years in this area, right? Now look what the rest of the country looks like. So you can see in some markets where the markets were red hot over the last 3 years, there's been a tremendous amount of growth. And then you could see some areas where over the last 5 years, it was kind of still neutral. There are some pockets, right? So if I'm investing, I could use this data to help make some educated decisions. Now you can see over the last 1 year, it looks like it kind of cooled off a little bit. In certain pockets, it didn't. And I don't know what's going up here. This is upstate New York. I don't know why it's glowing red up there. There's not a lot of properties, but for some reason, it's getting hot up there. You got some streaks in here. And wherever this is, I don't know, Nevada. Well, something's going on over there, which making stuff go still red hot, which is kind of neat. So it gives you an idea where the markets are starting to slow down. Let's look at 1 month. Okay, now we're starting to get some green in many places where there wasn't green. You're seeing a whole bunch of green in like this area too. So where Florida was red hot for the last few years, you even see some blue here. So the growth there is actually a little bit of a loss in some of these places in Florida, right? So if there's a change in the forecast, you can kind of see that happening. And that's what's really neat about this kind of analytic stuff that it does. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start getting into the searches. And there's 2 of them that I really, really like. The first one I'm going to do is going to be if they have a mortgage on it. So I go to Propstream and I'm going to put in Orange County. That's Orlando. Now, here's the neat thing here to the right. You're going to see there are 481,000 properties Propstream's recognizing in that county. So the next thing we're going to look at is property characteristics. Now, don't get me wrong. You could change this. This is just what I'm going to do today and right now. But I'm going to look for residential properties. I'm going to look for single family homes. Because I'm looking to buy single family homes that I can do this. It works for multifamily too. You could do it many different ways. MLS status, I search for ones that are currently on the market, active. Now I could do 30 days on market, right? So they've got to be on the market for at least 30 days. So what does that mean and why? You don't have to even have that there depending on your feedback of what you're getting. So I like to have a individual who owns the property or a trust. Now you can see when I start putting in these filters, there's 749. So there's 749 properties, once again, that they have on the market. Single family homes, right? Now what I do is I could go down to valuation. So loan to value is one of the favorite things I look for. So loan to value means if they have a loan on it, sometimes they don't have a lot of equity. So that's what I look for there. So the minimum loan to value means I could put 80% there. Now this means that they owe close to what they're perceiving the value of the house to be. Now this isn't always accurate, but it does narrow down that field. Now, also too, what I like, there's a lot of times where, especially now, I'm running into some sellers who maybe just bought 6 months ago, and they have a high 6% rate, 8% rate we've seen. And sometimes those are just too hard. The payment's too high. So for me, if I'm looking for ones that cash flow, because this is about cash flow, I'm going to make it the interest rate, the maximum interest rate they could have on their current loan is 4%. So what does this do? And I'm going to show you. Here is a list of 34 houses where they have a rough amount of equity. Now, this is what they're doing, and I'm going to show you how this works. We're going to look at this 4729 just the first one there. Okay. Now this goes over in Propstream, the owner's information. This is going to go over, it's currently active. Okay. So this is one that's currently for sale. It's been on the market for 30 days. It has a public record of when they bought it was 410. The neat thing about Propstream, it does go over mortgage history. They owe about 400,000 in the house. Goes over what the interest rate is. So this is a good lead to call if I'm going to talk to the realtor, because why? They don't really have a ton of equity on the home. And it's listed at 475 right now. So the first thing I do is I go pop it right in a Zillow. I pull up the listing because sometimes Propstream's not updated and it could be pending. Now this one's still for sale. This is why I love doing this creative finance stuff, guys, because I'm not looking at junkers, as you can see. I'm not looking at a house that usually needs contractors to go do the whole fix and flip, and it takes a ton of time. So why would I look for homes that have little to no equity? Well, because here's a nice turnkey house, and in some situations, the seller might need their money to move. In some situations, they might not want you to do this, but there's some situations where the seller's okay with you buying the house and then taking over, making those payments to their bank on their behalf and getting a 3% rate. Now, if I'm going to buy a turnkey house, I want to find something that cash flows. And at 3%, you're a lot more likely to cash flow than on a property that's got a 7.5% rate from what I've been finding. So when I'm looking at a house like this, things I look for is it does look a little empty. I don't know if it's staged, but these are the definitely kind of houses we do. And it might not be staged, but what I would do, now we just would call the realtor. And this is when I put on my hit list for definitely to call. The more they've had it on the market, the longer, sometimes the better. But that's just what I do, guys. And so now
somebody's saying they can't hear you.
So now I'm going to look at the next bunch of houses going down. Like here's one. So I'm going to look at the next bunch of houses going down. Okay.
Working here.
Okay.
We're having a technical difficulty with the main event. That one's not streaming, so.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next house that I'm going to look at is the one here on Bayside Drive. Right. So this house is listed right now. They bought it for $515,000. It's on the market for $1 million. Right. So chances are they've owned it for 5 years. They might need some money. Now, you don't ever know for sure, but they have a lot of equity, right? They can continue to drop the price if they need to. Been in the market for 30 days. So is that one I call? Depending. I like the ones usually in these circumstances with very little to no equity. So here's one active once again. They bought it for way back when for $613,000. The price right now is $1.5 million. And when you look at your mortgage history, it shows they actually owe, and this one's in default. This is a good one to call because they have 2 loans on the house, one for 1.1 and this. So they're actually selling it right now. It looks like almost at a loss from what they owe on the property. So this is one, maybe they took some extra loans out against it. And now the second one is in default, and that could be causing some issues, right? So this is what's neat about it too. It goes over the estimated loan payments, what their balance is, how much of a loan they've taken, what their rates are, and things like that. So this is where maybe this one has some motivation going on, I would think. You put that right on the hit list and you just call the realtor. And especially when you see this estimated equity. When I see the estimated equity, that's where I always see that that's what they're guessing that the value is worth based on what they owe. And right here, it tells you their estimated loan balance. So I just kind of pick through this list, guys, one at a time. This has got a divorce details. It's got liens, things like that. It's been on the market for 32 days. When you look at like mortgage history of what they owe on it, they really don't have much equity. Once again, it's a divorce. So sometimes those could be a little tricky because both sides of the divorce have to be on the same, idea of what's going on here, but they do work. And you can see this is just one county, guys. Once again, on the MLS, it's been listed at 3.1 million. They owe half that. That could be a little bit of a challenge, right? I just move on because their estimated loan value, they guess is 1.6, but this house is listed actually at $3 million. And really now what I do is I reach out to the realtor and I just ask them if this house is still available. Here's one they owe 510 on, and they've got it listed at 575, and it's been listed for 36 days. Here's what I'm going to look at. And then it's really easy. When I'm reaching out to the agent, just go on Zillow, find out who the agent is. So it's still for sale. It's still active. Once in a while, you'll come here and it'll show pending. So just look for that. But this one had a price drop, 3.7 listed here. So this is where we like to scroll down. This is built in 2003. So it's a 21-year-old house. You got the solar panels on the outside. Let's take a quick look. That's the community pool, community golf course. Okay, so I see an empty, vacant house. So instantly, it's something where, I don't know, they have a payment on it, and they're making a payment on an empty house. Those are the worst kind of payments to make, is when you're making a payment on an empty house, believe me. That stinks. So with this being the case, it's a 4.2, 2,000 square foot house, 20 years old. Appraised at 575, been on the market for 35 days. Doesn't have that many saves. Back in the day, 2 years ago, 2022, 21, if it was on the market for 35 days, this would already be pending, but you'd have like 1,000 saves, and that was 28. It's a huge difference, and this would be multiple thousands for views back when the market was 2-3%. So let's see what they've been doing here, and I'm going to tell you why we just stumble upon a little gold. Okay. Yeah, this is a total one to call. So if anybody wants a really good lead, jack this one. If it's not already taken. So this one right here, the house is built in they bought it in 2018 for $295. But if you remember, we go back to Propstream, they owe 510 on it. One's at a 2.2 rate. Love that. One's at a 4.5 rate. I'll take it. Combined payment is $3,500. So we have to check into some things that does not include tax, insurance, or HOA. So we need to see what it rents for too. Oops. But now when I go back to here, so they list it on the market 1 year ago, just about, for 550. It doesn't sell. They drop it to 528. It's not selling. They crack it under 500. Doesn't sell. They keep on dropping the price. It's not selling. Guys, this is less than what they owe on the house. They put the price back up to 506. Doesn't sell. So what do? In September, they feel the pressure, so they list it for rent. They list it for rent for a week. They remove it. They list it for sale again at 550, 549, 570. And you can see what I'm saying here, right? They've got a pending sale. 2 months later, it goes back on the market. When you have a pending sale and then you find out 2 months later that for some reason they don't buy, maybe the buyer backed out, who knows? But that's never a good thing. It's always the worst. So they list it back December. I mean, legitimately 9 days before Christmas. That's like typically the worst time to list houses, but hey, you got to do what you got to do. They drop it $1,000 the next day. That'll help. 555 on a couple days later, they drop it. They remove the listing. They list it for rent again for $2,895, $2,700, $2,600, $2,700. They take it off. They list it back again, and it's probably still not going to sell at this price if it already wasn't selling at this price or that price or that price, right? So now I can sense some financial stress. These people need to get this payment off their back. They're willing to rent it. They're willing to sell it, whatever it takes to get this beautiful 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2,000 square foot house with solar panels that's vacant and empty, right? This would definitely be one I'd call. It's a cute house, cute area. So this is one great way. This is why I love Propstream. So if you don't have this already, there's the link down below. I share that with you guys. Yeah, we do get a small kickback, but as you can see, it's worth it to have a little bit of an educated call. If I'm going to call 5 people today, because that's the only amount of time I have, I want to talk to the best 5 people. And this could help narrow that crowd down a lot quicker. And so when I had my full-time job, 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't have a whole lot of time to make calls and do things like that. So I know if I have 20 minutes today, I need to spend my 20 minutes doing the most productive things I can. And so this will help you do that a little quicker. So here's another one. Yeah, this is a cute house, 2,600 square foot, 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom. Goes over seller's information. So MLS details, let's take a look. They've got it listed at $525. They bought it here. What do they owe on it? Well, jeepers creepers, they owe that on the house. I mean, they owe $550 on this thing. And they have it listed right now at that. Okay, so let's take a look at this, right? I'm just talking to myself, and if you're listening, cool. But this is exactly what I do. The 2 rates are 3.3, 4.62. FHA, here's the lender, here's their term, length, payments, estimated balance of the whole 9. When they even took them. So they took both of these mortgages a while back. So the value of a lot of these deals is a turnkey, beautiful house, but a lot of the value too is just having these 2%, 3%, 4% interest rates. Okay, I think we could all agree that's a cute place. Decent kitchen, nice bathroom, open plan. There's the office where you could sit here and do all your stuff, buy houses, right? You got the upstairs, the laundry room. Yeah, nothing wrong with this. Pool in the backyard. Yeah, who doesn't want a pool house in Florida? Okay, so 4-bedroom. Now here's where I go. They just had a price drop a few weeks ago. They took off $25,000. It's been on the market for 37 days, 59 views. Still not a lot. Here's the thing when you're selling a house, though, you just need one good one. You don't need 50 people buying your house. You just need one good one. But here's what's happening here. They listed February for $550, just not selling, so they just did a price drop. They were listing it for pretty close to what they owe on it, just about what they owe on it, and then they just did a price drop. So these folks might be a little underwater, right? So this is an opportunity to call. However, this is the thing that's going to also help you with Propstream. You want to verify the information is accurate, but your payment here is about $2,900 before you add in tax. Your tax, it'll go over $3,800 a year. What's the insurance going to cost you? And then what's the HOA going to cost you? So when you add in the tax, the HOA, the insurance, and then those 2 payments, I could also kind of just do a brief look on the map to see what this area rents for by just doing the search of what rentals go for. And I know I'm going to have a payment, pretty high. And if I'm looking at houses like this are renting for $2,500 and my payment's $4,000, if they do say yes, is that probably the most productive call to be on? Hard to say, but probably wouldn't be. Maybe you could help them, but if you can't make money as a long-term rental, you don't want to buy it with, the idea, I'm going to make money doing a short-term rental, so that's okay. Because if the county comes in or town or the state or regulations change and you can't Airbnb it there anymore for short-term and midterm, or the HOA has a change of policy and you have to rent it long-term, you want to make sure you could at least break even. I want to cash flow on those. That's why I'm looking for deals with low rates, but you got to at least break even. Worst case scenario. But if you're losing $1,000 a month just to make a deal, I don't like those deals. So you want to kind of verify that information, and you could do it quickly by knowing, once again, adding up these 2 payments, adding up the tax. If you get an idea what the HOA is, and usually in the listing, it probably will say somewhere HOA is $84 a month. And then the insurance, here's the one thing too. Let me see if it's on here. Yeah. It shows you here taxes and insurance, but it's just a rough idea. I mean, they're never really that right. On the app on your phone, it does it too. And it'll tell you like what the HOA is. principal, interest, but you could see your payment here. This is if you're putting down a bunch of money too. That's not accurate to what your payment would be if you take it over with a wrap or sub two. Okay, on to the next one. And as you can see, this is just one county. I could be here for an hour, 2 hours. And what I do now, here's what I do. Just so we're on the same page. Instead of trying to message them one by one, I take down the 10 that I like, 15 that I like, that I've scrolled through. And so my system's probably not going to be easier for you, but it is pretty easy for me. And all I do is when I click on one I like it, I leave the tab open on the top of my desktop here of the ones that I like that I want to call. Then after I've gone through 34 and there's 12, 15 I want to call, I've got 12 or 15 tabs open. Then all I do on each one is I go to the realtor and I find their cell phone number. And most of the time it's on Zillow. And if it's not, I just Google their name and where they work for, and it pop up their cell phone number. Then I just simply send them a text message. And the text message reads, I'm going to tell you what I use. Use whatever you want. That's fine. But hey, John, my name is Joe and my wife is Jen. We came across one of your listings on Zillow at 125 Apple Street. Is that still available, or did you sell it already? Just what I said. And then therefore now you're going to start getting some text back, and they're going to tell you yes, they're going to tell you no. I always ask, like, this place is so cute. How come it hasn't sold yet? Right? And then we start talking about it. And then we could, propose the idea of seller financing, but we want to find out sometimes what the situation is. And every time I'm still going to bring it up and propose that that's an offer. But before I do that, what did I do? I know what the payment is roughly. I know what's going on, what they want to sell it for, what they bought it for. I know ideally what it could rent for. So I know that if they do say yes, like this one's got 2 mortgages, but they're both pretty low rates. So when you add up the 2 payments together, could this be a deal? Possibly. You got to look into it. But they want $799 for it, and they don't owe much less than that, guys. And if a seller, yeah, babe, we might be moving to Orlando. Look at these deals. This looks like a sharp house. All right, nobody steal this one. I might want to buy this one. Okay, so it is a 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom, 3,000 square feet. Y'all got all come down. Built in 2022. They just did a price drop. And here's where the trouble lies. It's a $799,000, $800,000 sale. But once again, when you add up the 2 numbers of what they owe on this thing, they really don't have very much equity, and they can't afford to drop it a whole lot more. So now what do I see? Once again, one of my favorite things, I see an empty house. Okay, so this is a vacant house somebody's making a payment on that they don't have anybody renting it from them. They're not living there. These folks are gone. And it's an empty house, and you're making that kind of payment on it per month, because what's your payment? Right? $3,200 a month. Plus you got your taxes on top of that of another $9,000. It's an $800,000 house. So, okay, it's not going to be free, but you also pay insurance, HOA. So now you've probably got a pretty big payment. It's a 3,000 square foot house in Florida with a pool. It's got the big slider. Nice place. Empty. This is a heck of a good lead right here. Right? And so when we do, I always like to ask if there are any HOA restrictions and things like that. But that's a big, sweet, sweet house. So if anybody makes any deals off of this, what I'm doing today, I at least get half. Just on the ones I'm pulling up, okay? If you get your own, then that's you. Here's another one. Let's take a look. Okay, it's a 4.3. It's 3,700 square feet, built in 2014. They bought it for $400. They have it listed at $400 or almost $800. And what do they owe on it? Jeepers creepers. So they've got 3 loans. One is at 6. These 2 are at 4 and 2. So that's going to be 6. So probably like $680 is what they owe on this thing. Add up them 3 payments plus taxes, insurance. What can I rent it for? Is this worth something even to call? I will tell you, sometimes the kiss of death is when you have all these payments. When you see the more mortgages here, they're probably going to be more distressed because they keep borrowing money against the property, probably to just stay afloat, right? And you can see the rates have obviously jumped up too. But if you can make the deals work, do it. I mean, shoot, it's a nice looking house. Let's see what this one looks like. MLS details, active 52 days. It's listed for $725. Once again, they've got 3 mortgages. And boy, another one. So this keeps on kind of showing the point. I don't know if they took all 3 kind of like in a few months apart. So I don't know if that was something when they're buying the house or what that was they were doing, but that's what's happening there. The neat thing about Propstream too, linked properties. This shows all the other properties they own too, where they are, their values, their current loan amounts, if they're occupied or vacant. So it has all that kind of stuff on there too. That's why I love Propstream. Okay, so let's take a look here. It's a nice one. And see, I always look for this too, like the little bit of equity. Let's look at this Big Daddy house. Okay. 1.5 million. They owe not a whole lot. Doesn't mean they won't do a deal. They've got 7 properties. That's a nice house, as you can see. So, you know what they say is you got to try. Worst they're going to say is no. But crazier things have happened. So even on a house like that, if I've got time and I'm really looking for deals in this area, still call the agent, still see if they'd entertain seller financing. The good news is if they have a lot of equity, that means they don't owe a whole lot. If they don't owe a whole lot, you could probably, get a much lower payment than if they did owe a whole lot more. So don't not try on those is my point of view. 527 sale. Once again, they're getting close to having very little to no equity. That would be definitely one I would call too. So these are the ones that now I'm going to go over free and clear properties. Okay, so I gave you a whole bunch of ways to find properties in whatever area you would pop in your county and find interest rates that are under 4%, or you could change it whatever you want. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to filters. I'm going to reset them. Okay, we're going to stay in Orange County, Florida. I'm going to just do this one today, and then if we do this again, we could do a different county. But you can see, once again, there's almost 500,000 properties there. So I go to property characteristics. Here, I'm looking for residential. I'm looking for single family homes. Once again, you could put in multifamily, you could put in condos, you could put in whatever you want. Doesn't matter. This is just what I'm doing. MLS status, I'm going to hit on market. I'm going to hit active. You could do days on market. I did 30 in the last one. If you didn't do 30, you'll see even more than the 36 we were looking at. But I'm going to do, let's just do 30 for just keeping it even. Okay, ownership info. What I do is I'm going to put in an individual or a trust. You could leave it open to corporations too, companies if you want to. We could do that. No reason why we can't on this one. Right. So here's the one thing I'm looking for here. I'm looking for absentee owners. This is the filter that I use here, and you could use it on the other one too. It just every filter you do shrinks down the amount of things you're going to look at. But on this one, what am I looking at? I'm looking for single family homes that have been listed on the market for beyond 30 days or more. It's owned by a person or a company. It doesn't matter to me, but they're an absentee owner. That means that owner lives out of state. And I can do out of county too, because I go from 80 out of state. If I hit out of county and out of state, I go to 147. So this is somebody who still lives in Florida, but just not in that county. So they live somewhere else in Florida. This one means they live out of state. And we're just going to do the out of state right now. So this means somebody, and the way they could tell is because the tax bill gets mailed to a different address. And that address on this search is out of state. So that's what I look for here. And now I'm going to go to mortgage info. I want all the free and clear houses. These are houses where they don't owe a dime on it. Okay. One other thing too, I forgot to put in there, ownership. I put 1 year of ownership. This gets rid of some of the people who are fixing and flipping it. bought it cash and they're just going to fix and flip it. So I'm not trying to target them for me in this search. So lo and behold, if I just do that search, I've got 38, which is about what I had in the last search. So what does that mean between free and clear properties and the ones that have mortgages? There's darn near close to 80 leads in just Orange County, Florida that I can call. Now, why do I love this list? Because this house is listed with an agent. When I'm explaining to agents that I'm going to buy a house and I'm going to take over the existing mortgage, but still own the property, sometimes they just have a hard time getting their heads around that. Sometimes they do, and then the seller does too. A couple of different obstacles to get to the yes. On this, it's a little bit easier because this is a free and clear property. They don't owe anything on it. Agents understand seller financing when you're just, making the payments and things like that. The number two thing I love about a free and clear property is if I know the area only rents for $3,000 and I look at what their current mortgage is with taxes and everything else, and it's a $3,500 payment, I'm upside down $500 a month. I can't make the deal for negative cash flow. So on a free and clear property, I can make the payment and we can back into that payment whatever we want. Some people look at, it's got to be perfectly amortized over a certain amount of time. Sometimes you could just do, and I've done many times, like I'll pay you $800 a month, and that's going to go towards what I owe you. And therefore, I could back in with my payment with taxes, insurance, and HOA, and all the things, so I could still make sure I could build in cash flow. This is my favorite way to do it. Versus if they have a loan, I'm just going to have to take over whatever that payment is. So here you've got 38 properties. Here's what I do here. Talks about where they live. They live in New York. Okay. Some of these New Yorkers moving down to Florida, buying up our houses. That was me. So here it is. So they bought it for cash. We don't think that's probably that accurate. Who knows? They probably didn't buy for $100. It's going to go over how many properties they own. Now, here's the neat thing about them. This house is listed with an agent. You could just Google this property, or better rate in Zillow. Still active, right? Now, here's the neat thing too. Like this house, the roof looks to be a little older. It might not qualify for an FHA mortgage, depending on things like that. But if you could buy it with seller financing, there's no bank inspection. Sometimes it's an easier sale for the owner too. So just keep that in mind. So when I scroll down here, here's what I love. Okay, they bought it here for $208. What'd they do to this house? They bought it. The next month later, they listed it for rent. It was a rental for a few years. Now they're looking double their money. They've had it listed now for a month, hasn't sold yet. I would at least call, and it could be one of these things where if I pay top dollar for your house, I could pay more, cover closing costs and commissions if we could do it with seller financing and I could pay that equity and payments. Now, if it's an absentee owner, and this is not their primary residence, this is just probably like a second home to them because they live in New York, this is a good opportunity right here. And I like this too because they only own 2 properties. So it's not like an investor who owns 84 properties and they're trying to, I want 9% and all this stuff. When you're helping people in a situation where I could pay more, but I'm not going to have to pay, more on interest rates, we can make deals. All right, let's look at the next one. Okay, so here it is. These people also live in New York. I was right. They're all buying the houses down here. Okay, so they bought this for $189. It's a house built in 1969, a little bit older home. Here's the one thing about Florida. If you're looking at Florida, if it's a wood frame house, you really have to be concerned with termites. It's a big thing down here. I'm from upstate New York, Rochester. Shout out Rochester. Freezing cold up there right now, but freezing cold keeps away termites. So in all of the years of being up there, I've honestly never seen termites until I moved to Florida. And as I was out with my wife this morning, going to get our Starbucks, maybe if I talk about Starbucks enough, they'll start sponsoring us too. But that cold brew. But on our way to Starbucks this morning, we were driving by a house that has a huge tent over it. And that's what they have to do here if you have termites in your house. So wood frame houses are block frame is where you really want to be. And almost all of them are, but you'd be surprised how many aren't. So this is a cute house. Does look empty to me. I think we could agree on that. this could be old photos because maybe it's not. Also, too, like this doesn't look staged because usually they use more modern stuff. But a lot of times you could tell, look real close, and humans, we could spot it. Sometimes they're virtually staged. It's a lot of living room for just one little couch. Probably like a vacation home is what I'm guessing what it is. Got a pool, nice house. So once again, if I'm able to pay $509, which may be too high, maybe we agree on $499, where the seller still feels really good about their price. But I feel good because I could buy it with very little to no money down. I could have a super low payment that I could cash flow on. And I could have a really long term. So if the market goes up or if it goes down, I don't have to be stuck in like a 2-year term where I have to get them cashed out. Many times I'm getting 10, 15 years or longer. That's what you want. So if I get paid top dollar, this is how I can make that work. And you're going to find some situations where maybe they bought it high and they don't want to take a loss, or maybe they're okay with payments. But there's nothing wrong with this house at all. I think we could all agree. Maybe that's not your furniture choice, but it's move-in ready. So that's a neat one. I'd be messaging the realtor. Hi, my name is Joe. My wife is Jen. We came across one of your listings on Zillow. Pop in the address. Is that still available, or did you sell it already? And then I just do that text to all of them at once. And the reason why I do that, I do it all in a group. If they respond to you, you want to put the address, obviously, so they know what house you're talking about, but B, so you do too. So when they reach out, like, yeah, it's still available. You're like, okay, what house was this agent? Because some might not get a hold of you right away. Some might respond right away. So when the ones that do respond, you want to know what house that you were looking at. So if you have got to go back onto Zillow and quickly pull it up because you've looked at 100 houses, you could do it real quick. And plus, obviously, the agent's going to know what the heck you're talking about too. Okay, here is a house. They bought it for $192 not that long ago, 1 year ago. What do they have this thing listed at? Ooh, buddy, $529. So maybe they did a fix and flip on it. Maybe it was a family thing. Who knows? But they have 4 houses. Maybe this is what they do, right? So this could give you the idea of what kind of seller this is just by looking at linked properties. If you see they've got a bunch, you're like, okay, my first brain thought goes, this is an investor. They live up in Massachusetts, but he's got 3 houses in Florida and a second house in Massachusetts. And he's got a pretty sizable portfolio. If I talk to them, they might be open to seller financing, but sometimes they do want high rates, but it's always worth a shot. But he's also an investor, so they might be open to more than normal people too.
Normal people, investors aren't normal.
Well, normal as far as like regular, everyday Joe and Jen. Mm-hmm. Okay. So cash, they bought it for $68,500 in 2014. I don't even know what it's for sale for, but if I had to guess, I'm going to think $375 just because this is Florida. Okay, $250. Okay, a little surprise. Sometimes they go for the moon down here, some of these sellers. So you always never get too surprised what they ask for. So here's a house in Orlando, inexpensive entry level home. And let me be honest with you guys. We all love these big, huge, beautiful houses and the pools and the 5 bedrooms. I honestly hate having rentals that have pools just because of the fact that it's a pool and that makes me lose sleep at night. The other thing is the entry price homes that are affordable. These are the ones that are still moving, where the expensive stuff isn't as fast. It still is, but isn't as fast as the affordable stuff. Maybe you've got people downsizing, or you have people looking for their first home. These little 1,200 square foot ranches are some of my favorite houses to do. So this one's not that expensive. They bought it for 2014 for $85,000. They listed it for sale. They had it for sale for a couple months, didn't sell. So what do? Listed at a new higher price. That will teach them. Maybe they did some work to it, but when you have it listed and then you generally go up in price when it doesn't sell, it's kind of hard to do. But call the agent, see if they are open to me paying close to that price. And I always tell the agent too, is, that's in the range for what I'm looking for. I'll know more when I come out and see the property. But before I do, I want to make sure that your seller would be open to seller financing. And so you don't have to go look at a bunch of houses that you end up never. Oh no, they want to do that after you drove there and spent half an hour with the agent. Okay. Let's see what else we got here. Okay. These folks bought it in 2007 for $200,000. Is my internet just not working? Okay. They bought it for $500,000. They've got it listed for $507,000. That's never good. All right. So here's the deal. In the market for 44 days. I'm going to scroll down. I want to see what's going on here. Oh, she's been listed longer than that. Okay. Once again, here's the juice. What does this sign tell you guys? Okay, they bought it for $500,000. 1 month later, they list it for rent for $33.85. This was August 12th, 2022. They dropped it from $33.85. They're holy Toledo. Okay. That's a pretty big drop. So it took 2 months and then they removed it. And it looks like they probably found their renter there, because you could see about a year later is when they listed for rent again for a little bit higher. But look where they finished off at $2,400 almost. And they started off at $3,300. That's $1,000 difference. They had to drop it to get this place rented. So they rent it, then they offer it for rent again for $2,485, $2,460. They decide, the heck with this. We're done trying to be landlords and trying to rent this thing. We're going to put it on the market and sell it. And no, it's not selling. And this is what they bought it for. So do you think you got somebody who's sick and tired of being a landlord? Now let's take a look at this house. Is this house like a junker? Looks cute on the outside. Inside looks nice from what I could see. I mean, shoot, that's fine. Guys, like, here's when you definitely call the agent on. And they keep dropping the price, and it's just not selling after a while now. Rent and trying to sell. All day long, I'm calling this. Where do they live? They live in Georgia, and this is an LLC. So I'm calling the agent, and I'm going to ask them if they'd be open to terms. Maybe not. How the heck do you own 47,000 property? This is a big, so yeah, I probably wouldn't call the agent on this, because this is probably like a big corporate buyer. I don't know what that is. I would still maybe call, but odds are when I go to link properties, unless it's messing up, it's going to say that this is somebody who owns a lot of properties. And you do find that quite often. You'll find one of these big corporate buyers that does own 47,000 properties, and they have this huge $1 trillion portfolio and all this crazy stuff. They're probably less likely to do terms. It's still worth a shot, but you're probably just barking up the wrong tree. I like talking to the folks who live in Illinois, right? And they want to sell or Massachusetts and things like that. So she bought this in 2020 for $215 or $212. They've got it listed right now for rent, so it's not even for sale. Link properties, this is the only one they have. I'd still call it, even though it's listed for rent, and ask the agent, it's a cute house. I'm looking to pick up a couple properties in the area. Would your seller be open to either renting it with the option to buy, or would she just outright sell it with seller financing? Where the heck is this one? Well, let's take a look first. This is the agent. This is who you call. Well, maybe they would be, because they bought it lived there probably for a few years because it doesn't look like it had a past rental history. So they rented it at listed at 2100, 2000, 1900. It's been up for a few months now. Hasn't found a tenant yet. So maybe the owner would be, because this is a free and clear property. Free and clear property where this person lives in Massachusetts. So I am providing tons of value for you today because that's my favorite. And I'm just giving you tons of free leads right now, guys. If you're not calling these things, what the heck are you doing today on a Saturday morning? This is like the best thing to be doing. Because you're going to find agents who have some houses that are having a hard time selling. You're going to have owners who have free and clear properties. As you can see, some of these folks have tried to sell. Some of them have tried to rent and sell, and neither are working, and they're just getting frustrated. And if you could call and provide a solution to where maybe they just don't want to have to deal with the property, and if they could turn in from the owner into a bank, and you could just make payments directly to them for their equity until you could get them cashed out later on, this could make a win-win for everybody. Get that house off that agent's books, right? Because nothing more than they want to do is get this thing sold too. So if you could sometimes negotiate the commission, some agents have negotiated with us and said, hey, I'll give you a big discount on my commission if you can make that deal work. We did a deal. We partnered up with some friends in Tampa on a seller financing, and the gentleman was losing his house because he was behind on payments. And it was a really tough spot. And the only way we could get the deal done, the agent came to us and said, hey, listen, I will drop a $500,000 home. She dropped her commission to $4,000, and the seller walked away with $2,000 at closing, which was in a situation where it was listed, they were going to take a huge loss. So the fact they actually put a little bit of money in both their pockets and it got sold, so it didn't go into foreclosure, worked out well for everybody. So when you work with the right agents, man, they want to get this thing sold too. So they'll tend to work with you, but those results are not guaranteed because some agents are also very difficult to work with. So you got to find the right fit in the right situation. And it's a numbers game. So you don't always get lucky in your first try, but keep trying. All right, last house. This is a cash sale. Ownership is a company. Oh, I bet you they might own a whole bunch of properties if I had to guess. Yeah, see, they own a ton of properties, and this one's in pre-foreclosure. That's interesting. They don't owe any money on it, but it could be liens or things like that. So this is one, once again, if you do call, it's a huge corporate buyer. Chances are they probably won't do a deal. So here we go, guys. So thank you for tuning in on this Saturday morning. Let me see, do I have any questions? I think I covered everybody. The property just mentioned that is in default. Isn't that default to cash flow if they have a second mortgage? Carrie, on the one I was looking at, if it's in default, you got to just check the cash flow versus what they get rent for. That's the biggest thing that I always look for every single time. Because there's so many times, you're right, I'll find some deals where what their payment is with everything included is just way higher than what I could rent it for. That's a problem, right? Because I'm looking for properties that I could cash flow on. And once again, if it's in a super hot area and I love the area and I need to have a house over there and the interest rate is 2.5%, but I'm breaking even, somebody like me could probably do that deal, just knowing that we could break even on it. But I'm looking at like what's the upside of what this potential could be there too. But that's more of a risk tolerance thing that you have to kind of visit all on your own. And that's why this is just for fun. This is just something that I do. I would always make sure that you vet every single deal and have them all closed and looked over by an attorney, because that is crucial to your success. I see so many people try to just piece all of this together who've maybe never done a deal before. And this isn't something that you really want to take lightly, because sometimes if they do have a mortgage and you're going to buy it with a wrap or subject to, you really need to know how to close that the right way and protect yourself, protect the seller, and many other things too, so you don't put yourself in a bad spot. So that's why I'm really big on learning how to do this the proper way. Get some education on it, guys. And YouTube is great for entertainment and kind of getting the idea. And that's when I got on YouTube in 2016, 8 years ago, where I discovered this. And it's about this time of the year too, it was the spring. But I didn't start like diving more into it until like late spring, early summer, where I started really watching a lot more YouTube videos. And then 6 months of like diving deep, we went and hired a coach. And that was our very first coach that we hired, was in the spring of 2017. And because we did what that coach said, we bought our very first deal with creative finance. We bought many others the old fashioned way, buying, burring, and all that other stuff, wholesaling. But here was the first deal where we actually bought with $100 down. We had a turnkey house that we didn't have to worry about contractors this time. And we had a 0% mortgage because it was a free and clear property. So once we did that deal, Jen shared that Instagram post not too long ago. I was like smiling ear to ear. But when we did that first deal, that really kind of paves the way of like, wow, we could really do a lot more of these deals, and we could pay sellers more for the property. And the guy who sold us that house loved the terms that we agreed on because he got his number. He got his number for his house that he wanted. He didn't want to sell it on the market. He just wanted to be able to sell it quick and easy, and didn't want a lowball offer. And he was like, this is my price. This is what I want for it, which we still got a good deal on it. But the fact that we could buy it with only $100 down, this is why I love those free and clear properties. Now, I'm going to do as a disclaimer, all of the properties that we just looked at today are all what? That's right. They're all listed with a realtor. So if they're listed with a realtor, there's going to be your cost of you getting into the deal is going to be higher, because now you're going to add some type of real estate commission to it. So I'm looking in Florida where houses are. You could see them all. They're $500,000-ish up to $1.5 million. If you're in the middle of, Ohio, and you're looking at $100,000 home, your commission there could be only a few $1,000s. So where you're looking is also going to make a difference. So I just used Orlando today, but just keep in consideration, the realtor is going to want to get paid for still being a part of the deal. And we've done them this way too. So you just could talk to them about what their commission would look like. And, if it's a house that's been listed for a little while, the realtors are usually pretty awesome about trying to help out their seller. And that's the name of the game, guys. We're here to help sellers. Yes, it's not a bad word to make a little money along the way. But if we could offer a strategy where everybody feels good and nobody's feeling icky because of some low offer, and we could, do the deal all together, it really aligns to what we love to do. So if you ever need more questions or stuff like that, don't forget, we also go live every Tuesday on our podcast, Creative Finance Playbook. And we share a ton of things that we're doing. We're interviewing some of our clients who maybe have just started in our coaching program, and they're doing really well too. We just dropped a really great one a week and a half ago, and with some of our current clients who are just absolutely crushing it. So I recommend checking out that podcast too, because that was a really great one. And we've got a bunch more coming. Don't worry. And we're actually thinking of adding a second podcast during the week, which we've been kicking around. We just got back from a really awesome mastermind, and we're kicking around some really cool ideas for possibly that second one coming soon.
Yeah.
But I want to come chat on a Saturday, kind of explain what we're doing. I hope you're all having a wonderful day, and keep going, guys. There's leads out there, there's sellers out there everywhere, and they need some help. So have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you soon.